This is Josh here from InsideWrestlingTruth, and my guest today is Manslaughter and Alister, the Asylum. Uh, First off, tell me, how did you guys break into business and who trained you?
Go first.
Yeah. I broke into business first. I broke in shortly after I turned 15 with the help of Moondog Spot and Psycho Kid, Richie Bergen, Larry Booker, and Richie Bergen. Spot trained me for a short bit, sent me back home, and told me pretty much I was on my own. And then Richie, which was a Spot student, he also was trained, by Spot. So he was from Louisville, Germantown, and so when Richie got back, we spent the money and rented out Nightmare Incorporated at the time, which is now OVW. And he pretty much finished me up there, and he got his break just by coincidence. I had a ring set up my side yard.
Today I'm going to teach you how to bump.
Yeah, cuz you're going to bump today. And he's like, huh? And about 3 months later, he was getting his ass beat 6 days a week.
Well, like I told you in our last interview, it actually started out supposed to be a one weekend thing as his manager because Jim Chadwick got hurt on a shoot job. So we talked Joe into let me be his manager. So I was managing him around some little spot shows here on Inbred, Indiana. And,
the armpit of Indiana.
Yeah,
it smelled like it.
For the rock and roll rebel. Yeah.
He's retiring again for the 17th time.
Yeah, he retired more than me. But anyway, he told me, he said, we're going to learn how to bump. And Alister Keithine, the Asylum, we had him, because I wasn't even really going to be a wrestler, I was going to be a manager. And so once I started actually working and changed my name to Alister Fear and got rid of the goof gimmick.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Richie Bergen, we talked Joe into booking him, and he brought the judge with him, which was actually my son's PE teacher at school.
His wife was my teacher.
And the judges, we put us all three together in the Asylum, Manslaughter and Fear.
It was formed. I mean, you talk about a manager fit for a gimmick. I mean, this man lived everyday life with a big beard, gray, washed hair, and stuck in the 70s, and he didn't live life no other way. I traveled up and down the roads with him, and it was Stevie Ray Vaughan in the CD player and his Impala.
And smoking it up.
His
judge's robe and his red, white, and blue chucks.
Yep.
Good old days, man.
I miss him.
How did the Manslaughter gimmick come about?
Madman Pondo. I love that guy, man. I was actually, people don't know, we're sitting in the Evansville Coliseum right now. This is actually where I got my break.
It was Mantis before it was Manslaughter.
It was Mantis, and then Mantis come out of his mask and became I'm going to say it on this show.
A wigger?
No, a PG-13 wannabe.
Oh, he was a lot bigger than him, though.
Yeah, well, I weighed combined weight of what PG-13 was, but it's just I went back to my roots, man, and I didn't grow up in the ghetto, but I went to school in the ghetto, so
you went to Missouri too, didn't you, Josh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
so you know all about the ghetto.
So you know all about the projects,
yeah.
Miss Baker.
Yeah, Miss Two-Ton Baker, yeah. And
I'm older than you guys. I was over Mr. Walker, my friend.
Yeah. But, Miss Baker and Scott Jones, Mr. Jones,
Fish Lip
Miss
Miller.
Myers.
Fish Lips.
Yeah.
Mr. Myers, yeah.
And, it just, I was heavy seeing that this is where I got my start, is right here in the Coliseum. And Pondo's like, man, you really need to drop that shit. And I was like, man, I really don't. And, I got another hood gimmick. I'm waiting on the exotic Adrian Street to just get it to me. And, so when Adrian got it to me, Pondo said, man, what about the name Manslaughter? He said, we'll go take some promo pics in Waverly Hills Hospital. And that's how it came about. It was just a road trip with Pondo. And then it became a household name in the state of Kentucky, thank God.
Alister Fear came from Doug Gilbert.
Two greats,
Called me to the side one night and said, kid, that gimmick is horrible. What are you into? Well, vampires. Do a vampire gimmick. What about Gangrel? Fuck Gangrel. Who's he?
Yeah, David Heath.
So Doug Gilbert, it was a lot of help to me in my start. And training wise, I was trained. Doug Vines was my primary trainer. Slaughter helped me get started. Got my foot in the door. So if it wasn't for Manslaughter, Alister Fear wouldn't be here because
If it wasn't for Manslaughter's parents, Alister Fear wouldn't be here, or Manslaughter wouldn't be here. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'll be the first person to tell you, if it wasn't for my mom and pops, man, we would have never been funded as long as we was to even get a break.
We took our Lincoln out on the road every
week. It was in a reliable car with funds.
hotel rooms for
$10 cheap. My mom had a gimmick at the Holiday Inn, and it was all good. And on the way into town, I was showing my kid, historic sites for me, like when this idiot decided he was going to go off in a Wendy's right up the road here, and because of Too Tough Tony. And,
that was up on 41.
Yeah, that was Halloween night.
I'll tell you that story real quick. So it's Halloween. We're driving all night. We just come from Memphis. We just come back from Memphis.
We was coming from Memphis, going to Mantino, Illinois.
So we stop in this Wendy's, and man, I'm starving. So they're just hoping it takes forever to get our food. We're all in gimmicks. I got my things in, my contacts, and everybody's freaking out anyway. And so we get our food. I take the tray back to the table, set it down, go up, give me some ketchup and stuff. I get back to the table, I eat my fries, because I'm one of them guys, I eat one thing at a time. So I eat my fries, I unwrap my burger, and there's a big old bite out of my burger. And I'm like, hell no, I picked it up, and I'm getting ready to launch it. Manslaughter jumps up and was jumping up and down going, Tony did it, Tony did it. There was a Evansville sheriff standing there, man, I'm going off, cussing, throwing 9 kinds of hell. Yeah, they thought that was pretty funny.
Oh my Lord. No, what was funny is what you did later that night.
Yeah, but we ain't gonna my wife might see it.
Yeah.
How did you guys become a tag team?
Family, man. I mean,
Well, and not only that, this guy here was Joe Bailey's boy, so whatever he wanted, he got.
so much.
And he pitched the ideal to Joe, and which Joe loved it because then if he got pissed off at him, he used me to get him. If he's pissed off at me later on when I moved up the ranks, he would use us against each other, and he played that gimmick. So
Joe Bailey even went up.
Hey, what's up, man? All right, buddy. See you then.
Joe Bailey even had us to a point of a fist fight. We literally got into a shoot fight.
Well, it was between Joe Bailey and
some rats, but
and a rat, yeah.
Joe Bailey, and there at the end
with the help of a rat, Joe Bailey and Jack Daniels.
Yeah, and if Joe Bailey, I'm gonna say this now, God rest his soul, Joe, I love you and I always will, brother. But when it comes to a rat, with Joe Bailey being the promoter, if Joe Bailey didn't have first dibs, he wanted to start a problem. Yeah. If anybody knows, and I've watched many of your shoot videos, and I know you've asked this question to a couple of my friends, and what made the BBW fall was Paula Johnson. Paula Johnson folded the BBW. The BBW was a tight-knit family. When Joe decided to leave his family and go with Paula, the BBW kind of just opened.
The boys stuff. We used to get paid good for Joe.
Yeah.
When Paula come along, the money stopped.
The money was gone.
I mean, Simon Says got fired over a hot dog because Simon went to the concession and got a hot dog, which we was always allowed to.
I mean, we never paid for anything.
And Simon got a hot dog, and Paula went off, and then JC and Joe wound up getting in a fist fight over it. And Paula said that either Simon goes or I go, and Simon was family.
Yeah. I mean, that was Simon's God people, man. Joe Bailey played Santa Claus for Simon,
Yeah, so Paula's what killed BBW, I'd say.
And that's weird because the only place we ever teamed up was Bad to the Bone Pro Wrestling.
Oh, we tagged down Harlem against Rip and Rage.
Yeah, but we was affiliated with Bad to the Bone. No, we was affiliated with that goof Purple Haze. But I mean, that as far as people knowing us, it was Bad to the Bone Pro Wrestling.
And Glennsboro.
Yeah. We, that was we did a feud in Glennsboro right after we come back. I don't know if you knew we did Springer together too. So
twice.
Right after we did Springer the first time, it was a big draw. They was advertising, guest Jerry Springer to fight live. And so
that grew around home, you know, and them podunk towns in Kentucky, you know, I mean, them hillbillies, they didn't give a damn as long as they seen Jerry Springer was real. I ain't gonna say no different because I did sign a legal contract, but you know,
we got escorted out of that town, didn't we?
yeah, we did.
With the night we were married.
Yeah.
Them people down there in Hazard
Got lost and wound up in Virginia or West Virginia
man,
or something. Purple
we
Haze.
got some road surf. We'll tell them later on.
Yeah.
How did the judge come into the picture?
He said it a little earlier. Psycho Kid actually, like I said, you know, the judge's wife was my school teacher, and actually she wasn't my school teacher. I worked in high school. I worked with autistic and special physical handicapped children, and that's what I wanted to do when I got older. You know, and wrestling was just going to be a hobby. And you know, Miss C, Joyce, brought in a picture of her husband one day, and this is before I even knew who he actually was. And I was like, man, I know this guy, which was Larry Booker, Moondog Spot, and I know this guy, which was Mike Hatchew, also known as Red Dog.
I thought Larry Latham was
And-
Moondog Spot.
Well, his real name's Booker.
Okay.
Yeah, and Latham was just him and Ferris as the Bombers.
See, my story's smart enough to the business.
And then it was her husband, and I was like, you know, so that weekend, this was like on Monday or Tuesday of that week in school, and that weekend I was actually scheduled to do a show in Indianapolis for a guy by the name of Ron Owens. WCWO, Wild Championship Wrestling Outlaws. And when I get to the show, I meet her husband for the first time, and he's with Red Dog, and he's managing Red Dog. And I wasn't traveling a lot. I was still in high school, you know, so I was just traveling on the weekends. And you know, later on in life, when Jim Chadwick got hurt, God rest his soul too, Gentleman Jim, Pink Sock Crew for life. You know, Jim got hurt. He lost a finger at a shoot job, and he was off for a while. So I brought in Alister, and you know, I was like, man, you know, we're gonna have to do something, and I need a manager. I didn't talk at the time, and Joe Bailey absolutely refused for me to even speak a legible word.
I feel like the first time Manslaughter spoke, Manslaughter died.
You know, it killed the gimmick. And so Psycho come in, and he brought the judge with him. This guy was supposed to admit Psycho into the insane asylum and everything. So, man, when I seen him in his cloak or whatever the judges call their little gimmick, and seen his visual, like, I've got to have him.
Greatest indie manager.
And I actually went to Psycho, and I was like, Psycho, brother, you know, Psycho was kind of in and out of the BBW at this time. He had broke a leg and had some problems with Joe, and you know, Psycho was a hard person to get along with at times. You know, not all the time, but at times, which we all are. You know, we're wrestlers. We have split personalities. So, and I asked for Richie's blessing, you know, and Richie gave it to me. He said, Chris, if you can make him something, so be it.
We have like a bunch of teenage girls with whistles.
So, I asked the judge, and he kindly accepted. And you know, for
great friends,
a couple years, we traveled apart. You know, we never traveled together because I always traveled with my girlfriend, one of them at the time.
I ain't your girlfriend.
And well, yeah, he traveled with me too.
No, I drove.
Well, he drove me all the time. And but then later on, you know, down the road, I started traveling with the judge. You know, if the judge was in a booking, you know, his wife took care of all my hotels, not taking financially care, but booking and arranging everything for us. So, you know, and the judge was a great asset to me. And if it wasn't for the judge, I don't think Manslaughter would have been the character he was.
Or Alister.
Yeah, I mean, he made the Asylum. You know, I mean, it wasn't us. We just did the work.
Great story about the judge. We was doing a show in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, and I'm in the ring working, and I look out, this old lady's got the judge by his ponytail. I mean, she was reared back, and I go to get out of the ring, and he's like, he loved it. He loved them to get them open.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm tell you what, Father Fear. I would love to get Father Fear and the judge at the same time to manage me. That's like the angel and the devil on your shoulder.
You're going to say that would be one on each shoulder. Yeah. Yeah. Judge is great, man. I got a road story we'll get to a little later.
Maybe that's why I like
Waffle
Father
House.
Pierce so much, because he's got the gray beard. you know.
Yeah, probably so.
He's a little bit skinnier than the judge. Yeah, I think he's only got one ball, but he's gonna kill me for that one.
That's the next question. What is y'all's favorite road story?
Oh, I got this one. We was coming back from, I think it was Lexington. Like I said, I always drove because at that time,
I know where you're going
at
with
that time, I was clean. I didn't do nothing. I didn't even take aspirin. And of course, Smokey over here, you know.
Smokey.
So we're coming down 64, and we're right about the Middletown exit. Well, let me back up. Going to the show.
Oh yeah.
We're driving, and this big friggin' bird smacks the windshield of the car.
Barrel rolls out the windshield.
So he's over, he's in his own world. I'm like, did you see that, dude? And he's like, So we get going a little bit further, and there's a duck in the middle of the road, sitting right in the middle of 64.
Right on the yellow line. Sitting there just as plain as day.
I'm going, man, dude, I got a contact here, So we get going down the road a little. We're interviewing, please hold on. Okay. So we're going down the road a little bit further, and it starts pouring down rain. So I flip the windshield wipers on. 1, 2, boom, windshield wiper flies off. So we drive all the way to Lexington with my head hanging out of the window in the rain. So on the way back, we get to about the same spot. And I shit you not, dude, Bigfoot exists because he walked across 64. It was either Bigfoot or the biggest man I'd ever seen in my life.
Elegante lives. It wasn't Bigfoot.
So he sobered up real quick, and we're both looking at each other going, did that just really happen?
Did I see that? It's different if one person sees it, but if there's two visual aspects on it, it happened.
Or what about the time we was going to Hazard with the Sluggers, and we stopped in that store, and I was in Gimmick, and this had a church on every corner of this town.
Oh, my Lord. Church doors are always open, right? Not the Alister here.
I walk in this little general store, my fangs in, my white contacts, and I don't know what she was doing, but this little black lady was there. So she's, I'm standing behind her, and she's staring at me, and I take my glasses down, I look at her, and I show her my fangs. I shit you not, she dropped her groceries and ran out of the store. Slugger comes and grabs me, throws me in the van, and we speed out there. He's like, dude, you're going to get us killed in this town. And sure enough, we wrestled them at night. He picks up Psycho Kid, throws him about 5 rows out in the crowd, and these hillbillies rushed the ring on us.
Yeah, I mean, we literally, police escort, yeah. Right. I mean, they was...
What about the Mantino, Illinois, where you beat up the retarded kid for
I did not beat up a mentally handicapped child.
He beat up a retarded kid, Josh, I swear.
I do not use the word.
All the kid wanted was an autograph.
All right, Josh, you're not in the wrestling business. You've been around it for a lifetime, just like I have. What's the first rule of professional wrestling if you're a wrestler? If anyone breaks the ring ropes, they're defend yourself. Yeah. And that's all I did. When I get to the locker room, I find out this kid is mentally handicapped. Now, 6'7" tall, 400+ pounds, feeling about a half-inch tall. It was a sad day in my life.
I missed it because this redheaded girl.
We'll just say, what was the guy's name?
Thor.
The leader of the Hammer God. Well, Alister was getting the hammer job from his wife.
It was his wife.
And
I didn't know.
In the car. I'd actually got knocked out during the match. And I wake up to a good buddy of mine, John Thompson, lunatic out of, I think he's Northern Illinois, Wisconsin. I wake up and I know him from MRW. And I said, where am I? Oh, Tick, what's up? He's like, dude, you was like out for a minute. So I was like, where's Alister at? I found Alister about 30 minutes later, coming in the locker room, smiling. Damn, dog, what redhead we seen out front? I was like, I don't even want to know.
Yeah,
Rhonda, I'm sorry.
That was a bad story, yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about the BBW now. What were the biggest problems in BBW?
Joe Bailey wanting to argue or tell you how low grading you was for fucking a rat.
Yeah, Joe had his own business of things.
If Joe Bailey didn't tag him, wasn't nobody allowed to tag him. And Goose,
That was the biggest problem right there.
Goose, you are a no good, blonde-headed, fat, pornographic faggot. I hate your fucking guts, you scumbag.
Yeah.
He brought this girl to the show.
Well,
this girl,
but first he was a mark in the crowd.
yeah, he was a
from the
mark
blonde
for
goose.
me. He was my mark. You know, and it's like, dude, what is your fetish with me? You know, and
Next thing you know,
finally
he's
he
running
was
the
in the
locker room.
business. He was running the books. I never once, from the time I was there when the BBWs opened their doors, and never once had the books. Never. Didn't want them because Joe Bailey politics. Joe Bailey was the best promoter in the mother world.
But his politics.
But his politics sucked. It's like listening to the Republicans down to Democrats and the Democrats down to Republicans. I don't give a damn. I can't vote. I'm a convicted felon. So I don't care.
Yeah.
But Goose brought this girl to the show. Okay? The girl was wanting Alister.
I remember this.
Alister didn't want her.
Alister never
Big
was a
Chris.
sister.
Big Chris had a baby mama at home. And so I was 19 years old. My baby mama was
And he
in
was
her upper 20s.
and he was a rat chaser.
And I was, I love the rats. You know, they called me Decon. You know? And so this girl kind of migrated towards me, and I took her. Well, it wasn't a couple months into me and this girl. We was never a relationship, but every time I was in Harrisburg, Danville, or in that area of Kentucky, that was my hotel piece. And so Goose goes back and he starts the rumor this girl gave him AIDS. And, you know, I'm spazzing out because Goose actually calls me to a side in Boyle County, Kentucky, and says, hey, brother, you know, when I was incarcerated, I had to do blood work to work in the kitchen. And they found out I had AIDS. And I slept with Nikki. You know, oh, shit, I didn't mean to say her name, but I slept with her. And I know you're sleeping with her. Well, Big Chris did a lot of things. But Mama always told me, if you ain't certain, wear a curtain. You know? So after that, I did have a long series of blood work done for a couple years. And thank God, you know, nothing ever happened. But I was protecting myself. Plus, I was protecting the boys, you know. And but with the BBW, back to the BBW. The BBW was the best promotion I've ever worked for. Ever. But in the same sense, it was by God the worst.
Absolutely.
Because of the politics.
But at first, like when I first came to BBW, we was a family. I mean,
it was a tight-knit family. You had me, Pondo, Ox, Alister, Doug Vines,
Bill Lewis.
JD Thunder, Bill Lewis,
Tony
Borcherding, Too Tough, you know, and all them guys actually, I kind of paved the way for them to come into BBW with Too Tough and Biohazard, Billy Black, a lot of the guys that come out of Peaksville, Kentucky. Basically, when I would leave Joe, I would go to a little off-the-wall promotion and scout talent.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew it wouldn't be long, Joe would be knocking at the door if he didn't come to their show and say, hey, dude, I need you to come back home. And that's exactly what happened in Peaksville, Kentucky. Is Joe come in, he's like, man, I need you to come home.
Peaksville. Where's Peaksville?
Where Purple Haze and Tony Johnson run.
Oh, okay.
And so I said, well, Joe, the only way I'm coming is if I bring these boys with me. And Joe's like, all right, man, open door. You know, so I brought them boys in. I'm even responsible for getting the Andretti's. And the only one I really like is Monkey. I like Guido.
Yeah.
I love Guido to death. I do speak to Steve, but, you know, me and Steve ain't as tight as me and Monkey. So, but, you know, I mean, the BBW, it was Joe Bailey's politics. You know, was the worst part about it, and Paula Johnson.
Well, the reason you can't bleed in Kentucky.
Yeah, it's
do all
because
that.
Joe Bailey's politics, man. He wanted to argue with Ian, you know? Why? You're not even running the same towns.
Like I said, the Monday Night Wars had nothing on the BBW.
Oh, yeah.
Wars.
It had nothing on the Crunch Daddy Promotion Wars. Is
Joe,
what it was,
Ian
you know?
had King of the Deathmatch pre-sold like $3 grand.
$3 grand.
And Joe had to sit down.
Yeah, this is a cult. These guys are vampires. All they want is blood. You know, and I was an IWA mark.
Well, the
You
reason
know?
that started because Joe started as As in
promoter,
as
Crunch
promoter.
Promotions, yeah.
And Joe was anti-hardcore. He hated hardcore.
Yeah, Joe didn't want us, none of us to get in the head. And actually, the first time I went to BBW, thanks to him, because he thought that he wouldn't come if I wouldn't come, you know, and I don't have no control over it. This man's older than I am, you know. So
IWA was
I don't
where I
have no
wanted to be
control of
at.
him, you know, and I wished him his best, and, you know, and so.
Well, you took me to my first IWA show. I wouldn't even exist.
Yeah, you know, and I don't give a damn where anybody works, man. Feed your family.
Right.
You know, I got 3 kids. I got to provide for all of them. I don't care who pays me. And it was just a bunch of shit. But Ian Wright, the first time I ever went to work for Ian, I was working with Tony in Charlestown, and Ian's like, I was coming off a head injury. I took from a chair shot in the temple, and it put me out for like 6 months. And in E-Town, Kentucky, for Joe, and I'm leaving Joe. I'm going to Ian, and Ian told Tony, don't hit him in the head. I never heard Ian tell anybody that, you know. And first thing Tony does is hit me in the head.
Probably in the back of the head.
You know,
Tony was good at that.
But, you know, I mean, it
Love
is
Tony.
what it is, you know. I love John Williams. I hate him rotten. You know?
Yeah. Same here. I mean, a lot of people, Ian is in. And my thing is, all these guys bitch and cry about it. But how many times you stick your hand in a cage with a dog that you know bites?
Yeah,
I mean, like the whole Jeff Jarrett incident. You know what? That to me, I mean, it didn't surprise me that he got shorted on pay.
oh no.
And if Vince says your money's in the mail,
You're never going to get it.
as far as John Calvin, I like John Calvin, but we know John Calvin's a spoiled brat, and he thinks his daddy,
Is God.
is going to take care of him. So I could probably see John Calvin smarting off to Jeff and getting smacked upside the head.
And the only reason nobody fought Ian, and I can't stand this motherfucker I'm about to mention his
Jim
name.
Fannin.
Jim Fannin.
I hate Jim Fannin.
If Jim Fannin was at that building, Jim Fannin would have whooped his ass or
Jim Fannin-
tried.
Jim
Jim
Fannin-
Fannon's got balls.
He looked like a little geek, but atomic dog. Remember?
Yeah.
He
That's exactly
he
what
punched him right in the face and sat there with his head down.
Yeah.
And Corbin all them. Jim Fannin was a tough little nerd, man.
Ian actually made us walk out of BBW. The very first time me and him both left, we walked out of BBW. They put us against 2 high school football coaches.
He almost got us arrested.
Yeah, I mean, I choked him out in the middle of the ring.
Now let me tell you, this story was Joe used to do this when we were in the high schools. He put us in there with high school
You
coaches.
draw.
Put the coaches over, make them look good.
But he always had them get there early so we could work out shit. These guys show up 30 minutes before bell time.
Well, and I was taking the pin, and I was young and green at the time. I was like, no big deal, So I'm over there to pin the 1, 2, 3. I wasn't happy about it, but it was business. I look over and this football coach is foaming out of the mouth. His face is purple. Manslaughter's got him in a chokehold. Next thing I know, this high school's full of cops and ambulance, and Joe's, both of you fuckers are fired. Both of you motherfuckers are fired.
You got fired us, man.
Yeah, we quit. I mean, we could have been in TNA. Stephen Dunn wanted us to become TNA. We had an opportunity to go, and Joe sent him fake contracts.
Bogus contracts. I mean, this man called us up, was going to have us come down and do TV promos and everything. This is first exposure we ever had to that shit. Hell yeah, we're going. Joe Bailey, he calls me 3 days later. He's like, man, why didn't you tell me you was under contract with that indie promotion? What are you talking about, Steve? What contract? Yeah. He's like, well, I got it right here in front of me, man. I was like, I don't know what it is, but the only thing I ever gave Joe Bailey permission to do is use my name to sell merchandise. He didn't have exclusive rights to me, no. My grandmother had exclusive rights to Manslaughter because she had that trademark. So, but Joe Bailey did it,
Let's talk about Joe Bailey, the man and the promoter.
Joe was a great guy. I mean, he was a great guy, but it was like one of the double-edged swords. I mean, I can't tell you a time that Joe ever turned one of the boys down to go to his house and stay.
Yeah,
Miss Vicky was she was like a queen, man. She took care of us. I mean, Joe gave me a break when nobody else would. So, like I said, if it wasn't for Joe, had his own
demons,
his own business of stuff, and JC was everything. Here's a good story. When I come back to the BBW years later, after I had done a couple years off, got in touch with Joe. He was doing some fair shows. He's like, Alister, I want you back. I'm like, okay, cool. Hardcore title. We still do a little bit of hardcore over there at the time. So it was he put the belt on me. So me and JC worked one of the greatest matches we ever had together. The '84 lumber truck deal. Well, I went over the belt. So me and JC worked up this deal that I was going to take the next show off and come back to the town, my hometown, Oldham County, and I was going to beat him back for the belt. Well, Joe got wind that I was going to beat JC. Next thing you know, I was off all the fair shows because you didn't go over JC.
JC put me over a number of times.
Oh, JC had no problem with it.
That's common sense, JC had no problem with giving the shine to somebody else, and that's what was weird is
His daddy didn't want to
his
do
daddy had a total vision of JC that wasn't JC Bailey. JC Bailey was a guy a kid that loved this business and studied this business and what this business stood for. Originally stood for. Now, what it stands for today, I ain't got a clue.
And Joe cared about his guys. Like one time, we was in this bingo hall in Jeffersonville, and he was supposed to work New Jack.
Yeah, and
well,
Joe Bailey paid me to go home.
And at that time, New Jack was big time, so he was excited for it.
Hell
but
yeah.
New Jack come in, and the guy running the show said, "Who is it?" And Joe said, "Some black guy." And New Jack said,
"It was over." New Jack thought it was a race car.
Yeah, he said, "It's your mama, you camcorder promoting running."
Yeah.
So Joe paid Slaughter to get dressed to go home.
And I did. I didn't want to burn my bridge with Joe.
But Joe knew that he was going to get hurt.
Joe knew what was going to come out of the conflict. And plus it was a promotion that only lasted 2 shows. So it wasn't, Chad Casey was the guy's name. Silver Bullet Chad Casey.
Todd Rich was one of them.
Todd Rich was on the card. Guy that I've traveled many miles with and can't stand him. I don't know why. But, Joe paid me to go home, and that's what I did. Even when I was here, I don't know if you know anything about MECW when they come in the doors here. But when WCW folded, MECW come in, a guy by the name of John
Collins.
I'll write you, Coach Chet Collins. Come in, and he brought all the big names in. All the guys that Vince couldn't take over their contracts was here.
Right.
Kurt Hennig, Barry Windham, Mike Rotunda, Buff Bagwell, New Jack, Sandman, Sabu, Bill Alfonso. He roomed with me several times when he was here. Johnny the Bull Stamboli, all them guys, Ashley Hudson, all the WCW guys that lost their jobs. Well, Collins was writing them code checks, so they was coming in. He had pondered a bunch of money from a Canadian dude, and was writing these code checks. And Joe got mad because I was out here jobbing to Kurt Hennig. I jobbed to Kurt Hennig out there. I jobbed to Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda out there. Me and Vic the Bruiser, we wasn't afraid. If Vic wasn't afraid to do the job, I sure the hell wasn't afraid to do the job.
I did job to Kurt Hennig, and he did.
I got to wrestle Kurt Hennig. How many guys on the indie scenes can actually say that? How many years did Kurt spend on the indie scenes? From the time I was a kid, he was always in the Big Two.
CM Punk was my manager one
Yeah, Milwaukee. First time I ever met Punk was in this building.
Let's talk about going to the IWA and the problems with the IWA.
Problems with going to the IWA was where I wanted to be from the get-go.
IWA was fun.
From the first time he took me there, he was a big Gator McAllister mark.
I love Gator. Still do.
And the first night we went, it was Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert.
Yeah.
Falls County anywhere. They were going through windshields of cars in the parking lot. And I told him, I said, dude, that's what I want to do. I want to do this. But at that time, he wouldn't even look at me. I was green. He wouldn't even look at me. And me and him come up with a contraption match that got me into IWA. But IWA, man, it just, the fans they're a cult, like you said earlier. They were the greatest fans I ever worked in front of.
Most respectable fans.
If you
If you
screwed
fucked up, they told you.
1 second.
If you fucked up, they told you. If you did something they appreciated, they let you know. And that's what I really loved about the IWA is the fans smarts, and it wasn't one of them, it was all of them, and it was good to have in unison. If you fucked up, champ. it was good if you did something spectacular, holy shit chant, you know? And I've known Ian since I was like 15 years old. I called Ian's hotline and told him I was 18 just so he trained me, and he still turned me down.
The IWA fans, it didn't matter if he was babyface or heel.
There wasn't none.
So, because I was a big heel over there, and I got hurt one night, and these fans stood on their feet and chanted Alister till I got up off the ground. And then when I came back in 2002, they chanted "Welcome back." The whole building. I mean, these fans were unbelievable. The best fans I ever worked in front of.
By far. The only problem that me and Ian ever had, and he'll probably tell you a different side of it. He probably won't even mention me. I don't give a damn. Is, you know, the first King of Death matches I ever worked, you know, Axel kind of gave me a little push. And he was like, you know, Ian, he's like, I'm here, you know, but I'm only here every now and then. So give your local guys a push, you know. And so at the time, I was the only American to ever eliminate Axel Rotten from a King of the Death match tournament. And I wound up going to the semifinals. You went to the semifinals that year too. It was you and Roland, and me and Corporal, and it wound up being Corporal and Roland in the main in the finals. And then Roland went over for the Hardcore Cup. But
King of Death match.
Well, yeah, King of Deathmatch tourney. And then he brought me back in. He was down here running shows, and I was down here working for him. And at the time, I got into tattoos real bad, and I've got $7,000 worth of ink in my back. And so Ian had me going to the next round of the King of Deathmatch tournament in Olytic in like 2004, I think it was. And I found out who I was working, and I still hadn't received my payoff from the first night, you know? So I was like, I'm not going to go out there and cut my back up, just going to, you know, not even being paid from the first night to go out there and cut my back up. And here I am competing all over the world for my tattoo shop, Prophecy Inc., you know? And they're paying for me to go all over the world and compete. Why tear it up? So me and my girlfriend at the time, we decided that I need a soft drink. And that soft drink just happened to be back in Louisville, Kentucky. And so nobody knew where I went. Nobody, you know. Ian went out there and blasted me on the mic for like 30 minutes. Any publicity is good publicity in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
So
and me and Ian's really never had no problems. My problem with IWA was Jim Fanning.
yeah, man.
Like I said, I had took some time off. I got hurt 3 times in a row, courtesy of Necro Butcher, Bull Pain, and Roland. No, actually, it was 2 Necros and 1 Bull Pain. So I took some time off, and I called Ian up on the phone one day. I said, "Hey, Ian, you know, I'm gonna ride over and say hey to the boys. Is that cool?" He's like, "Oh, Alister, you're welcome anytime. I'm out of town, but Patty knows, and it's all good." So I go in, I'm talking to all the boys, shaking hands, bullshitting. Jim Fanning walked past me, and I'm like, "Hey, you don't shake hands no more?" And he's like, "Not with people like you and your cousin. Y'all had a chance to be here, and you decided, and you threw it away." And I'm like, "What is this, WWE?" Fanning was just a little prick, man. I mean, like I said, John, I had no problem with John. John taught me a lot, and he took me places I never would have got to go otherwise. Of course, he never paid me enough money to screw me. When I first got there, he felt like he had stole something from Joe, so he
put you over on the payday. You know, he put you over on the payday. He stole Joe Bailey's talent.
But once I got hurt, I had to take some time off. I about cut my hand off. I had to take 6 months off. I came back and I was a jobber to Mark Wolf. I went from a main event guy with Corporal for 6 months straight to jobbing for
a referee.
And I told him when I came back in 2002, I said, "This is a one-shot thing, man." You know, I was driving a taxi. I was making good money. And one of Ian's marks was also a driver. He said, "Hey, Ian's trying to get hold of you." Called in. He said, "Do you want to do King of the Death matches? First round with Court." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's no problem." So I went over, me and Corp did a Lumberjack Light 2 match. Great, all good. So he taught me into doing one more show. And I did that one more show, and I jobbed out to Mark Wolf, and I'm like, so are they, I think I asked Roland or one of them, I said, "Is he giving Mark a big push?" And he's like, "No, Mark's still the jobber." And I'm like,
"Wow.
Well, this ain't what I come back for." So I packed my bags and took some more time off and actually came back for Bobo. I can't believe what says that loud. Bobo Brazil
James
Jr.
Morris.
Benefit show for yourself.
Yeah. Flipso Jim.
But IWA is, if at the time in the 90s and early 2000s, if Ian would have promoted that show right, he could have been the biggest promotion in the Southeast. I mean, by far. Ian was more worried about how much money he could make to go to the casino than he was take care of his talent and promote.
Buy a bag of pot.
And that's not a shoot on you, Ian.
It's the truth.
Nothing but respect for you, but truth is the truth.
Let's talk about Ian Rotten, the man and the promoter.
Oh, we just did it, didn't we?
Is that pretty much
I
what
think
we
we
did?
just summed that up.
Ian's he's a good guy.
The promoter's a dickhead. John Williams is all right, but the promoter, he's a dickhead. I mean, period, point blank. Jim Fannin, I kind of had the same altercation with him at a show in Clarksville. I went to a show.
Over at the Kobe building.
Yeah.
That's where I was.
And I called in and asked him, hey, man, is it all right to come over? Yeah, man, come on over. I said, well, I'm going to bring a chick with me. And he's like, cool. She'll have to pay. I said, well, that ain't no big deal. I understand that. And so he, Tracy Smothers calls me back into his locker room. I paid for my rat. She was a rat. I ain't going to lie. She was a rat. I paid for my rat to get in. And then, I was there doing some business with Tracy and Mitch. That's why I went over there. And Jim Fannin walked in the locker room and he's like, what are you doing in the locker room? I was like, well, Tracy asked me to come back here, and he's like, well, get the fuck out of my locker room. Not a problem. I respect you. I'm not on the card. Not a problem. I'll walk out. Well, when he comes to open the show, he opens the show with me. I'm standing over by the announcer's table, I'm not bothering nobody. Wouldn't even nobody knew I was there other than the people that know me personally, and he gets on the mic and starts blabbing on me, and so just so happens my rat and Fannin's rat went to school together, and
You banged Fannin's rat, don't lie.
no, I didn't. I got a blowjob.
No,
I'm sorry, but no, and so on the way out the door, Fannin's bad mouthing me, and Patty's like, Chris, I'm sorry, and she hands me my money back for the rat, and I was like, oh, don't worry about it, Patty, I love you, and I'll see you later. And Fannin's still bad, and before I could walk out, I told my rat to go on and leave because I didn't want to hurt myself later on that evening. So I shut the door behind him, and I said, hey, Jim, I just got one thing to ask you, brother.
remember.
And by the way, how do I taste? And Fannin went off. And I just walked out the door, got in my rat's little car, and drove back across the bridge back home. But Jim Fannin, you suck. I hate you. I hope you die.
He was never nothing but Ian's money mark.
Yeah. And he broke you. What's bankruptcy court
And now
like?
you're nowhere around.
Yeah, what's bankruptcy court like?
Let's talk about the trip to Hazard with the Sluggers.
Woo! Man, I've never seen a black person turn white. Until that lady run out of that store after seeing Alister. And the Sluggers, I love the Sluggers, man. I just seen Bobby the other day, still running around Germantown. And so the Sluggers was my buddies, and at the time it was Robert and Richie, Bobby and Richie.
And they hated working with us because we were big.
Oh
and
yeah,
stiff.
they hated it.
They're little guys.
Yeah, they're
They used to be my neighbors on St. Catherine.
Yeah.
We beat them boys up
we was just tight. We wasn't shooting. We was just tight workers, and and we even put them boys over. And they was just fun, man. They was fun to work with, fun to ride with. Smoke you out. Oh my God! You get to going down the highway and you ain't 10 miles out low when you stoned to the goal.
I would fill a piss test in a heartbeat. I didn't even smoke. But it was fun times.
Yeah. Alister, don't ask for a piss test. He'd fail it. Literally back in the day, he didn't take an aspirin. Jack Daniels maybe, but no aspirin.
What about working Rip and Rage?
Big, stiff,
horrible.
I had ripped my tricep out back of my arm the night before.
Hanging out, literally hanging out.
So I had it taped up, and I told him, I said, watch my arm, and dude grabbed me, and his fingers went right in my arm.
I don't know if it was Rip or Ray's. One was black, one was white.
But they were
stiff. But one of the white boy reminded you of LOD.
They were big,
I mean,
muscle
big
up boys.
juice head junkies, you know, and it's like, man, you know. And then we go to this promotion at Hazard, and this guy literally, he's got the neck probably a quarter of an inch long. You know, his ears touch his shoulders. You know, and you could just tell, boy, your mom and dad never left their sticks, and they was related.
We almost went to jail that
Well,
night.
yeah, I mean, the Hazard trip, you know, it was fun.
Well, we did after the show. We went to get our money, and the old boy told us we wasn't getting no money.
Yeah, no bullshit.
We made his guys look bad. We went out there and sold our ass off for them.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
put them over.
Yeah, put them over clean, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And we went back to get our money, and he tried to hand us like $40 or something.
Yeah, dude, that ain't gonna cut it.
So, Manslaughter grabbed one arm, I grabbed the other arm. We pinned this guy. I mean, he wasn't 5 foot tall.
But he was 7 foot tall by the time.
Yeah, we had him up on the wall, man. And,
Yeah.
and his boys tried to get crazy, so we was just getting ready to do an all-out
Sluggers carried ball bats to the ring. Hey, brother, I need that. And it wasn't but an arm's throw away. I mean, just because we went out there, we worked these guys everywhere. So, you know, we was family. You know, we knew each other like the back of our hands. So it wasn't nothing but a question, you know. Here they throwing us ball bats and they putting knucks on the hands, you know. And where's the fight at? They didn't want none.
They say, no, we got sheriffs everywhere.
Yeah, and police asked, well, what's the matter, man? You know, we come down here on a guarantee. This guy guaranteed us this amount of money, and this is what he handed us, $2 $20 bills. It don't work.
What about Steve, Dan, and
Steve Dunn?
Steve
No.
Dunn. Yeah, Steve Dunn.
Steve Dunn and Rex King?
Reno Riggins.
Reno, it was Reno. Yeah,
Reno.
my bad.
Reno, he was running Salt.
Well, we
They
worked
come into BBW. Joe had a name for bringing in the old Memphis talent, and man, when they seen me and Alister work, you know,
we worked them.
we
Yeah, we worked them.
and they was like, man, we need y'all in Nashville. I never made a Tennessee run. I'd worked in Memphis a couple different times.
And we grew up at the Gardens watching
You know,
Steve Dunn
so-
wrestle.
Yeah, so I mean, both of them come through the Gardens, you know, when I was a kid, you know, and so it was like, oh man, these guys are interested, you know, and shit, we're gonna go. And you know, Steve had all this TV stuff, man. He was telling me all these cool ideas on the phone, and I was like, man, that's, you know, I'm relaying to Alister, brother. I
He was
think this
hyped,
is where
man.
we need to go. And he was like, man, you know, it's if you want to go, we'll go. You know, well, we're going. You know,
we
and
definitely
no ifs, ands, and buts
we
about it. We're going.
We called Joe and gave him our notice, and
Yeah, Joe, we're giving 2 weeks, brother. You know.
that's when the fake contract comes.
That's when the bogus contracts come into play. You know, and Joe literally sent these boys bogus contracts.
Let me tell you something. Steve Dunn was a remarkable, smooth, light, great worker, man. Great worker, great guy.
Easy talking, man. He was a lovable guy. You know.
The other one took too
Another one
soon.
gone too soon. And you know, it's that, you know, and later to find out Reno's running NWA Saul now, or was. I don't know. Tony Falk, I think's got the books of it now.
Oh boy,
But I love Tony. I went to work for Tony, and that's where I got hurt at.
I like it.
I love LT too, but you know, and then later on down the line, you know, Alister, it was quoted at one time. I don't know who he said it to, but he was quoted as, you know, Manslaughter had the wrestling business by the balls,
Yeah, I've said that a million
but
times.
the drugs had me by the balls.
I'll never forget sitting in his house. Jim Cornette calls, and this is when Cornette first went to TNA. He said, he called him, and he had a speakerphone on. He's like, we want you to stay clean for 30 days. We want to bring you down here and tag you with Abyss. Fucker hangs up the phone and says, fuck him, and lights a joint. And I'm sitting there going, dude, I would give my nutsack for that opportunity, man.
Yeah,
But, you know, sometimes the monkey is more powerful than...
it wasn't even about the monkey. You know, I mean, I wish.
Well, I
What
always
really
say-
turned me off about that, and I'm just now speaking this, and
Chris
Alice,
Justice.
Alister is my family, and I've never spoke upon this actually, but when MECW, I spoke about them earlier. When MECW come in here, there was a guy who wrestled here by the name of Johnny Justice. I know him as Chris Parks.
Chris Justice.
Okay, Chris Justice. When I was back in WCWO, back when I first started
And Glensboro.
in Glensboro and everywhere else, And he was wrestling here with a little bitty short guy, and his name was Chris Justice. Well, he come up to me and said, "Man, where'd you get them hoods made at?" Pass it on. I'm always fair for
I always said Abyss was a ripoff of Manslaughter.
You know, next thing you know, here's Abyss. You know, now I have a third party that I was in a relationship with for 15 years that worked with Chris. And she said, the only difference between me, this Chris, and that Chris is this Chris and that Chris was that Chris like cocaine and this Chris like downers. You know, I was always a painpill person. So I guess that's from all the injuries and never having time to heal, you know.
I always said that Manslaughter's problem was he was always so messed up that he didn't know when he was hurt. But believe me, you did not want to work him sober. Sober, he was the stiffest, clumsiest person I've ever been in the ring with. You let him smoke a hooter, you go out there, everything went nice and smooth. But to work him sober was horrible.
Yeah.
What was y'all's favorite opponent's tag and single?
My favorite opponent's single would have to be Kurt Hennig. I mean, I love Tracy Smothers to death. Had many good matches with him. He broke my jaw. Matter of fact, Tracy did. Love him to death. But having the privilege of working Kurt Hennig, and this was just months before he went back to Vince, and just a few months before he passed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, Alister wasn't here at that time, but he literally handpicked me in the locker room to work with that night, you know. And he's like, "Marcus, who'd you have?" I worked Buff Bagwell the week before that, and worked with Buff Bagwell the week before that. And Henny was like, "Who'd you work with last week, Marcus?" He's like, "That big boy right there, Manslaughter. That's who I want." He was telling Dirty Chris Hayes, you know, "That's who I want to work with." And then he come up to me and he said, "The only thing you need to know is the finish." I said, I know the finish. You know, I mean, I know the finish. He's like, "Don't worry about it, kid. If I can fisherman suplex Paul White, I can fisherman suplex you. Not a problem." You know? And he snatched me up. The first time he wanted to go, I wasn't. The first time I thought he was going. So I gave him his ump. And second time I didn't know he was. You know, that's when he wanted to go. He wanted to sell it and then go. And shit, it was all him. I didn't have to post. I didn't have to boost. It was just boom. I was, you know, and tag. I mean,
I'd say probably tagging
would be Reno and Steve.
Reno and Steve. Singles for me, believe it or not, it only happened one time. Was I worked and Ian had the feared chair shot. Well, Ian had put me over as his monster so me and him worked. So he hits me with a chair. I register it, and I come back up, and I said, "Another one." And Ian's like, "You motherfucker," you know, because everybody's supposed to tell his chair shot. So I took another one, boom. It's the same thing. Third one, he laid it on me. But I got Ian's respect that night, and I got the IWA fans with respect. I don't know. I mean, I always liked working Slaughter because we go out there and just beat the hell out of each other. And Juicy Jimmy, I love working with Jimmy.
I never got to wrestle Jimmy.
I love working with Jimmy. He's stiff, but I like to work that way. And so I'd say between Corp and Jimmy was my favorite opponent.
Axel's up there too with me. Axel would probably fit in the same category.
I always like working Roland too.
And with Wyndham and Rotunda and Henny. Axel actually took my own meat cleaver and opened up my head for me. And, I got to pop it out of you.
Remember the first time we ever worked in this building is when Tim Jackson was running it.
Yeah.
He brought me down here. I was real green. He brought me down here. He stabbed me in the head with a light tube, and the whole light tube was sticking out of my head, and blood was pouring out the end of the light tube.
Lady puking in the
front row. Yeah.
Lady puking in the front row. Yeah, that was gory.
That was
I'm surprised he didn't mention that in his other shoot video, because I'm sitting there watching his video, and I'm a mark for him. Man. I don't know if he knows that or not. And I'm sitting there watching the shoot video, and I was like, man, how come he didn't tell a story about the fucking light tube? You know? Light tube sticking out of his forehead, blood gushing out, that lady puking. How can you not remember that? You know?
That was my first match in the Coliseum.
What's been your all's favorite fed to work in?
Mine was, I guess I want to say CCW because I run it. Man, it's hard between IWA and BBW, but I'm going to have to lean more towards the IWA was my favorite.
This is going to blow a lot of people away.
Top rope.
Not by a long shot. The best company I ever worked for, as far as being everything it was said to be, was when Mike Samples had this building. I loved working for Joe. I loved working for Eric Acker. I was Eric Acker's hitman. I was Joe Bailey's hitman for a long time. But Mike Samples never asked nothing other than to go out there and do my job. And that's all I ever wanted, man.
Joe was good at that, man. He'd bring in a new guy and he'd tell one of us, go out there,
see what he's got. You know?
Beat the hell out of him, see what he's got. Dennis Dempsey, one of my best friends.
Yeah.
He made me go out there and beat the hell out of him, man.
And then I wrapped a chair around that man's head, dude. I mean, literally just folded an aluminum
And then
chair.
both of us wound up banging one of his daughters.
Yeah, being with his daughters.
What led to you guys breaking up?
Just
Joe Bailey.
it was that, and just I just wanted to make a name for myself. You know, I
was
felt
all
like
for it.
I felt like I was.
He was living in. He's not going to say this. I'll say it. He was living in my shadow,
Absolutely,
and he had no reason to. You know, everybody put him in my shadow. Chris never tried to put him in Manslaughter's shadow. You know, I taught him what he needed to know to get by in training. I never trained him. I never said I trained him. I taught him how to bump. That way he didn't, you know, he was going out there 6 nights a week getting his ass busted, you know, and everything else. But everybody put him in my shadow because I brought him into the business. I never once said, hey, cuz, you're going to stay with me. You know, he's my older cousin, you know, I mean.
Quite a few years old.
My dad actually pretty much raised him when he was young, you know, and I really, as a childhood, you know, I had 2 brothers growing up, you know, and one of my brothers ain't in professional wrestling, but my other brother is, and he's sitting right beside me, you know, so everybody put him in my shadow, and he didn't deserve to be there because, you know, he made his own name, you know, he what he did in the ring is what he did, you know, and anytime he got a book, like, I just admitted I'm a mark for him. I'm proud of what he's done. He took this company from the shithole to top notch, you know, and can't nobody be more proud of him than me. You know, I didn't teach him this shit. Joe Bailey taught him this shit.
Joe Bailey taught me.
You know, but Joe Bailey, if it was about promoting, Joe Bailey was the best at it. You know, and he had to live in my shadow for so long, and it wasn't right to him. And that's why I left the BBW. You know, because Joe kept putting us against one another.
Well, then he tried to relive the Montreal screw job.
Yeah, yeah. You know, he put the judge against me, and I had a big head on my shoulders because I was a big fish in a small pond. You know, but I was Joe Bailey's demon. I was the creation of Joe Bailey. What he made me in the BBW, the only reason I was the way I was in the BBW is because Joe Bailey made me that way.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, how many times can you hold a heavyweight title in any promotion? You know?
You got a boarded mic, it's out of here.
You know, I mean, so it was like,
Tom.
you know, Alister, you know, do what you do, brother. I'm all best for you. You know, it wasn't a hard breakup. I mean, that was the easiest breakup I've ever had in my life.
Just leave it on like that.
You know, I mean, and, you know, if it wasn't, you know, and we both got older and I moved out of home, you know, so I was living on my own and traveling on my own and you know, I didn't have to rely on mom and dad to afford the bill no more. So, and Alister, he had moved on and started a family and, you know, and everything. So, you know, it's just, it was due time, you know.
We went as far as we could as a tag.
Yeah, I mean, we never even really tried to push our tag team. Once Joe fucked us on the NWA deal, we just said fuck it, you know.
Yeah, we just did our own thing.
If y'all would have stayed together, where would y'all be at now?
Oh God,
Probably dead.
yeah.
Well, because then when I developed my habit along with his habit, it wouldn't have been good.
I've only OD'd
So I ain't got nothing to beat it with.
I've only OD'd twice, you know, regardless of the. And I've never died. That's obvious. I'm sitting here. One time, the death rumor got out that I was found dead in my Louisville apartment, and I don't know who started that, but man, that made the pay raise. The pay went to creep up somehow. I don't know how that happened.
I think I got killed in the car.
Yeah, but yeah, if we would have stayed together, our habits probably would have killed us both. Yeah.
One thing about this business, it'd take a good man to make him a cocksucker real fast.
Oh yeah.
Not literally a cocksucker, but
Well, it could do that too.
it definitely make you a person that you hate when you look in the mirror.
Yeah.
What's y'all's most memorable match?
Together or
Yeah.
is Steve Dunn or Williams?
I'd say probably that.
Yeah. Sluggers. Peaks
Yeah, that was
That
funny.
was good.
What about the? I don't know if it's.
The only reason I say the Sluggers, I ain't gonna lie, is I'd met a rat in Glennsboro, Kentucky, and right after I met her, like the following week, I blew my knee out. I was
Did you
scheduled
marry
to-
her?
I did, yeah. I did. She's with an OVW boy now. He matter of fact, he ain't even a actual worker yet. He's still a trainee. And the reason I got away from the business because she wanted a life outside the professional wrestling business. And anyway, she's starting all over, so maybe she'd get a good run this time.
A funny story.
But
Guy called the cops one time. Said Manslaughter and Alister Fear beat him up. Was that Crusher Bones or was that Hayes?
that was Crusher Bones.
But I forgot what it was.
No, that was Hayes in Frankfurt.
Yeah, I forgot how it started. All I know is I smacked the shit out of him. Next thing you know, Manslaughter smacked the shit out of him. He takes off running.
Yeah, Manslaughter and Alister Fear beat him up. See that on a police report. But I met that rat in Glennsboro, and I was scheduled to go back to Glennsboro next week. Blew my knee out on like a Wednesday here, I think it was, and I was out for 6-8 weeks. And, didn't go back to Kentucky for a while. This was right after I turned 18. You know, I had to be licensed over there, so it was like 8 months down the road. We went to Peaksmill with the Sluggers, and we was working with Sluggers. I think it was first match, you know. And I'm looking through the building, and it's pitch black in this auction barn. And I don't know why, but this girl stands out to me. She's sitting in the very last row. And I was like, man, you're that girl I wanted to go home with from Glennsboro. So I had the Slugger's brother to tell her to come out back. And that's the only reason I say that, you know, because she later became my wife. She was a riff, a rat that became my wife. But yeah, Stephen Dunn, Reno Riggins, you know, would probably be the best match we had. We actually were.
I forgot to tell you, when you asked me my match, it's probably Gator McAllister in Bardstown. That's when Joe turned us against each other. I left Joe and went to his competitor, GB, was it Battle Zone?
Battles on what was his name? Greg
Aubrey.
Greg Aubrey.
I worked Gator, and Ox and Chris Michaels was late. Doug and Chris Michaels was late, and me and Gator was semi-main, and Gator made me wrestling for like 45 minutes. I mean, actually working.
I love Gator, man. I love his work.
Yeah.
I love his work. Him and Bobby Eaton have the best top rope leg drops I've ever seen in my life.
Who's the biggest piece of shit in the business and why?
Christian Skyfire.
Well, besides him, Mitch Ryder.
This motherfucker laced my boots
I seen it.
in Central City, Kentucky.
Then got me.
Then
Everybody knows how I feel about it.
I took a rip from him, and he got mad because back in the day, I was a mark for the business. I still love the business for what it was in the 80s. And I used to get the pay-per-views on Sundays, and all my homeboys come over when they bring girls, you know, take care of the boy. Well, I stole his red, and then Alister wound up getting her.
Who?
I ain't gonna name her name.
Crazy?
No, it started with an S. The one you met out in J-Town or Middletown or something. The girl I only seen a picture of, and then you went out there and she was totally different. She was like catfishing you or some shit.
Oh, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I remember it. But you thought I got mad about it. And I'm like, dude, there wasn't nothing to me. But Christian Skyfire, let me tell you something. I know you'll watch this because I know how big of a mark you are. So you suck. You don't belong in the wrestling business.
Now he's running his own show.
Yeah, you and Cage Cutler, The only thing that's good about the both of y'all's case colors, Mom, is hot.
She used to be. I heard she got big.
I like big women. Well, I
Yeah.
used to.
But I love his mom. She was a nice woman. Yeah, Tristan Skyfire, he's a big turd. I mean, he's probably the biggest turd, but right behind him's got to be Marvelous Mitch Ryder. Mitch was running the Coliseum, and Mark fired him because him and Brian was scamming money off the top. So he calls me and tells me he's going to whoop my ass, but that he does it to everybody. But he told me, he said, within 2 weeks, you'll kill the Coliseum. All them years of heritage, you'll kill it. Well, guess what, Mitch? You were drawing 25 people. I draw 125. Now, kiss my $25 working ass. I hate Mitch
You
Ryder.
be mad at him, are you?
I can't fuck that prick.
I don't give a fuck.
Mitch Ryder ain't nothing but a Jamie Dundee
Mitch
crackhead.
Bale, New Albany.
I'm sorry, Jamie, because I like Jamie Dundee. I mean, that's a bad name in this building, but
New Albany.
I like Jamie. Never had no problem with Jamie. Jamie's one of the funniest and irritating people at the same time. Jamie Dundee's great.
But baby Mitch Ryder's sitting right beside you.
If you put them two guys in a room and put a wall up and tell them to talk, you couldn't tell who was who. Yeah. God damn it, boy. I'm Jamie. I'm Bill Dundee, boy. I do what I want to do. Okay.
So why?
Yes, sir. All right.
You forgot to tell her you love her.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to get told for that, bro.
Yeah, that's the only reason I said anything.
If you could work one person that you haven't, who would it be?
If I could work one person I haven't, who would it be? Honest to God, I'll never get the chance to work him. And the guy actually told me what the fuck I was doing in Memphis. He's like, man, you're fucking crazy. You're a kid. You don't need to be out there doing this shit. And I just worked with Bob Rapondo for Kick-Ass.
Yep.
That's Big Biss.
New Davey.
Big Biss.
This was great. He was down here last year. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I always liked being on a mission, man. Him and Bobby, I always loved them. And I actually did work on a show with them in Hopkinsville, which I didn't know Hopkinsville was all black until I went there. And needless to say that the white kind wasn't needed, there. So,
Kenbury, Indiana.
but yeah, Big Biss, man.
Until WrestleMania 30, mine was, I'd still love to work Mick Foley, but WrestleMania 30 was the first time I ever seen Bray Wyatt, and his gimmick,
He's awesome.
I would
The whole
love,
Wyatt crew is awesome.
I would love to work Bray Wyatt. To me, he is a psychology genius.
I don't know if he writes his own shit
Oh my God, he's
or
a
who
genius,
writes
man.
it, but man, I wish they was around when I was there.
Oh, that gimmick
Because
is
I could have
amazing.
talked and still, follow the buzzards.
That gimmick is amazing.
I don't watch wrestling nowadays, but by God, I did watch his interviews on YouTube.
I watched WrestleMania 30. That's the first time I'd watched wrestling in a long time. And I watched anybody who can make John Cena look that good is amazing. Because he made John Cena look like a genius out there.
If you guys could do it all over again, what would you do? What would you do different?
Stay clean. I think that, well, I take that back. Stay clean is one of them, but I think that I would have kept my mouth shut and ears open a lot more and actually learned to be a better worker and stayed away from hardcore. And just, and I'll say it, and like I said, Joe Bailey helped make me. He also helped break me because I got hurt in Cynthiana, Kentucky, and he gave me Zomas. And before you knew it, he was paying me in Zomas. So, my big thing, I would stay clean and learn to be a better worker. That's fine.
I have no regrets. I never wanted to work. I never wanted to work for Vince.
Japan was my big goal.
I wanted to work the gardens. I didn't give a fuck who run it. I just wanted to work the gardens. That's what I grew up.
That's the biggest regret in my business. I didn't go to work the gardens.
But I worked here.
Second
and
best.
this is where the gardens come after they left my hometown. And as far as regrets, or if I would have done anything different, probably not, man. I can't say that I would, because of the simple reason, man. You live and learn, and the only thing I'm gonna retreat my statement. Yeah, I would have did one thing different. When I was running on ball tires, I'd have slowed down and recapped. You know, I never slowed down and recapped. You know, my career come to an abrupt end, and you know, I hated that.
Well, like I said, man, he was always so messed up. You never knew when he was hurt until he was
Yeah.
hurt so bad that it was not fixable anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I blew my back out, you know, it was just a big boot. That's all it was, you know. And 13 back operations later. You know.
Well, guys,
We just yeah. Okay. We're wrapping up right now.
you got any last words or anything you want to say?
No, I do got one thing I want to say. I got a buddy in Illinois, man, that is kept my head straight from the wrestling business since I left it. Josh and Julie, man, I appreciate everything y'all do. I can talk to you about anything and everything, including the wrestling business. I appreciate that. Alister, bro, always a pleasure. Much love. Congratulations on this business, bro.
Support
you know.
indie wrestling, man.
Hey, indie wrestling.
Appreciate it, Josh, man.
InsideWrestlingTruth.com.